99% of people spend their entire lives waiting for the right time, the right opportunity, the right people to give them a chance. But the people in the top 1%, they got tired of waiting and decided to go get it themselves. The phrase for this is high agency. And once you understand what it looks like in practice, you'll start seeing it everywhere in the people who move faster, get more, and build lives that look like a dream. Today, I'm breaking down the 7 behaviors that separate high agency people from everyone else. These aren't personality traits that you're born with. They're patterns and skills that you can build, and you can start doing this today. 1. They ask directly for what they want. Most of the things that you've assumed are impossible or unavailable, you've never actually tried to get. You just decided in your own head that the answer would be no. But what if 1 out of 10 of these was a yes? How would that change your life? High agency people don't self-reject. They email someone for advice. They apply for a job that isn't advertised. They negotiate a salary when they're not supposed to. And the reason they get outcomes that most people don't, they ask. So start asking. The answer you assumed was never guaranteed. 2. They bypass unnecessary gatekeepers. Another differentiator is how someone responds when a door is closed. Most people stop. They go to the back of the queue and they patiently wait their turn. But high agency people, they look for a window. The quickest and easiest way in. They contact the decision maker directly, build relationships instead of waiting in line, create opportunities instead of applying for them. And if one path is blocked, they find another route. Of all the 7 behaviors, this one is probably the biggest gap between how men and women behave. Men are more likely to push the boundaries and see it as a challenge, whereas women, we've been taught to be compliant. We apologize for being an inconvenience and go to the back of the queue. But think how different our lives would be if we had the tenacity to ask for what we want. So stop treating every closed door as a final answer and look for the window. 3. They test ideas in the real world quickly. Right now, millions of people are waiting for the perfect time to start. They're debating the idea, researching and trying to perfect the product before even getting started. By the time most people are even taking their first step, high agency people have already run 50 experiments, learned what worked, and started building traction. They fail fast and iterate. You don't need to be perfect on day 1, you just need to start. And you'll figure out the rest as you go along. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is almost never about information. It's about action. And the faster you get your idea out into the real world, the faster the real world tells you what to do next. Number 4. They redefine the problem. Life is a lot simpler than we make it. But the issue is, quite often, we're trying to solve the wrong problem. Sometimes we jump straight into finding solution before actually taking a solid look at the problem that's in front of us. For example, if someone doesn't like their job, they tell themselves, I need a new position. That's quite a narrow problem and it has very narrow solutions. But when they start a new job, they realize that the same issues keep cropping up as in the last job. Their solution hasn't solved the real problem. Maybe the actual problem was working in the city, the long hours, or the type of work that they were doing, not just that one particular job. Before you spend time and energy solving a problem, check if it's worth solving, because the frame you put around it determines every option you consider. Number 5. They assume skills are learnable. Here's the belief that quietly kills more potential than anything else. I'm just not that kind of person. Not creative, not good at sales, not a natural leader, not someone who could do that. High agency people don't think in those terms. They treat abilities like they're trainable. Instead of, I'm bad at this, they think, I just haven't practiced this yet. Because if a skill is fixed, there's no point trying. But if a skill is not, every attempt becomes a stepping stone to becoming good. You are not a finished product. Whatever you're saying you're bad at, the real question is, have you spent enough time practicing to actually get good at it? 6. They tolerate rejection and discomfort. Most people spend the majority of their time in their comfort zone. It's comfortable, so why wouldn't we? But the top 1% of high achievers push themselves to step outside of that comfort zone. And every time they push themselves, that comfort zone expands. This behavior compounds hugely. They do things that feel awkward. They send cold emails. They pitch ideas nobody asked for. They ask for opportunities before they feel ready. And they put work out into the world before it's perfect. They get rejected a lot, and they feel uncomfortable a lot. But here's what they understand that most people don't. Discomfort is the price of entry. The people who never get rejected, the people who never have the courage to ask for something. But discomfort is the way to grow and build a bigger life. And the more discomfort you can tolerate, the faster you can grow. 7. They take responsibility for outcomes. How many times have you heard the excuses? It was the market. It wasn't the right time. I couldn't do it because of this, and so on. We create a whole list of excuses for why we didn't achieve the outcome. And some of them may even be true. But these excuses, even if they're right, don't get us the result that we want. So we can either sit there and reel off all of these reasons why, or we can act, try harder, and overcome the obstacle to get that thing that we really want, even when something isn't their fault. High agency people take responsibility for what happens next. It's easy to look at a broken system, an unfair situation, or a set of circumstances that you didn't choose and say, this isn't my fault. And often, you'd be right. But being right and getting the results are two different things. Ask yourself the question, given the circumstances, what can I do? Because in that moment, you get your agency back. You stop being the person that things happen to, and you start being the person who decides what happens next. And this gives you control. High agency people aren't spectators in their own lives. A spectator waits, plays it safe, and accepts the rules as fixed. A player asks, experiments, and changes the game. Agency is realizing that you're in control. And the people who realize that early, they build incredible lives that they actually chose. 99% of people aren't displaying these types of attributes, but you can control your life. If I were to pick any of these behaviors to tackle first, I would choose discomfort. Because every time you step out of your comfort zone, you prove to yourself that you can. I talk about how I push myself out of my comfort zone in a big way in this video here. It helps completely change the way that I live my life.